Hello and welcome to the podcast on lead-acid batteries by Ramesh Natarajan. With industry experience of over 42 years, Ramesh helps battery and battery-related industries with technical inputs and provides solutions to typical problems faced by manufacturers, service personnel, as well as users of batteries and related equipments. Hope you find this podcast useful to your business. Do visit www.rameshnatarajan.in to stay connected.
Hello everybody. In today's episode, we'll talk about the need for equalizing charge and the effects of neglect of equalizing in the case of deep cycle batteries. E-rickshaw batteries, electric vehicle batteries, golf cart batteries, recreation vehicle batteries, and the traction batteries used in material handling vehicles are all deep cycle batteries. In the case of traction batteries, these are made by connecting a number of 2-volt cells of the same Ah capacity in a series configuration. Thus, a 24-volt battery has 12 cells connected in series, a 36-volt battery has 18 cells connected in series, a 48-volt battery has 24 cells connected in series, and so on. After the cells are assembled and put on charge, the manufacturer ensures that the voltage and specific gravities of these cells are similar and within a narrow range before he dispatches the battery from his factory. Such a condition with consistent voltages and specific gravities within a narrow range is possible at the user end also, provided the user maintains the battery properly with a periodic equalizing charge. However, practically this is not the case on many occasions. The equalizing charge is actually a constant charge given to a battery after a full recharge. It's a constant current charge. The period of equalizing is generally 24 hours, and the 24 hours is after the battery has been fully recharged. The equalizing charge current is usually between 3 to 5% of the battery capacity. What that means is a 200 Ah battery is usually charged at a constant current of 6 amps to 10 amps in the equalizing mode. A 500 Ah battery is charged between 15 to 25 amps at a constant current. After a period of usage, say about a couple of months or 3 months after usage, the cells sometimes have varying specific gravity and thereby varying voltages. Why this happens? Because specific gravity and voltage are related. Once the specific gravity varies, the voltage of that cell also varies. Higher the specific gravity, higher is the voltage. Lower the specific gravity, lower is the voltage. Now, why does this variation take place? The first and foremost reason for this variation is irregular topping up. That is, when a person is topping up the battery, he is not putting a measured quantity or putting water up to the same level in all the cells. The level requirement also varies because what happens is the cells in the middle of a battery are generally warmer compared to the cells at the side of the battery. So naturally the evaporation from these cells during the process of charging, when the cells are hotter in the middle, the evaporation is more from those cells. So those cells require more water compared to the cells at the edges. This is the reason why that topping up has to be up to the same level. This is not practically done, and that is why you have variation in level and thereby the variation in the specific gravity of the cells. The second reason is overflow. Overflow leads to flowing out of the electrolyte from the cells. When the electrolyte flows out of the cells, a little part of the sulfuric acid also goes along with the overflowing water. This causes variation in specific gravities. At times, in cases where the overflow is very, very high, acid needs to be added to equalize. Of course, this has to be done very carefully and under expert supervision. But many a times, when some such thing happens, a person who is not very well conversant with the battery and who is just a dealer of batteries or somebody who does some local service, he comes and puts acid. This becomes the third reason for the variation in cell specific gravity, addition of acid. It is not recommended that acid should be added to the cells, and this also causes variation in cell specific gravities. The fourth reason is loose connection of interconnecting cables. Batteries of the traction type usually have solid lead connectors, and some batteries also have cable connectors. Where cable connectors are used, and if the road conditions are not very good, the cells dislodge slightly due to the bad road condition, and there is a pressure on the cables, and usually the cables become loose. So another activity which needs to be done is periodic tightening of these cables, that is the bolt of these cables. This is not done in many cases, and that also causes variation in cell specific gravities and voltages, because when the charge current is being fed, it does not flow properly in all the cells, and there is a variation in cell voltages and the cell specific gravities due to this reason also. Thus we observe that the performance of the individual cells vary. At times, the variation in cell voltages is to such an extent that the lagging cell does not accept the charge which has been fed in. Over a period of time, this particular lagging cell gets discharged without getting sufficiently recharged, and eventually it gets fully damaged, and under certain circumstances it can also get reversed. In such cases where one cell is not working, suppose it's a 24 volt battery having 12 cells and one cell is not working. What happens? Only 11 cells are working. That means the battery of 24 volt is now to be considered as a battery of 22 volts. The power which is demanded by the load is going to be constant. Suppose it is 1152 watts what is required. That means the 24 volt battery was supposed to give 48 amps from each cell. However, what happens is now it's a 22 volt battery, and the 11 cells, each of those 11 cells which are working have to give 52.36 amps. So as against the 48 amps which is required, now what we find is 52.36 amps is what is required or demanded from the battery by the load. Thus the load remains the same and it demands higher output current from the so-called good cells. Thus the healthy cells do compensate by working harder. However, if such a situation continues, one by one the cells start getting damaged and the entire battery becomes damaged. Hence it is recommended that as soon as one finds that a few cells are lagging or even one cell is lagging, it is necessary to ensure that equalizing charge is done, and if the equalizing does not bring up the lagging cell, maybe the cell needs to be replaced, and this needs to be done. However, such a replacement is not to be done on batteries which are about 3 or 4 or 5 years old, because it does not make economical sense to replace cells in a battery which is already so old. It is not practically possible also to do so and get a long life from such a battery which is already towards the end of life. So such a cell replacement is okay if the battery is say about 18, 20, 24 months old, or say just over 2 years old. Now what I have explained as regards a traction battery is equally applicable to batteries used in scrubbers, golf carts or e-rickshaws. The only difference is you may be having, instead of 2 volt cells, you may be having modules of 12 volts and in certain cases 24 volts, but generally they are 12 volt modules which are used, and monoblock batteries are used where you have 4 12 volt batteries having interconnections. Care has to be taken in these interconnections also to ensure that the cross section of the cables used as well as the length of the cables used are of the same type. Otherwise you will have variations developing due to that reason also. So that's all for the day. Thank you.
Please do visit www.rameshnatrajan.in. Keep yourself updated about our new releases by hitting the subscribe button.